programs, which includes the Youth Peace Award. We are training 550 youth peace ambassadors across the Commonwealth who will submit proposals for peace projects. The top 5 of these peace projects will be selected with funding and membership provided to implement these projects. The Commonwealth Peace Prize. We announced last month that £50,000 will be awarded to the best implementers of peace building who are inspired by faith and who have made a profound, lasting, and measurable contribution to peace. The runners-up become Commonwealth Peace Fellow who will mentor the Youth Peace Fellows. Commonwealth Faith Festival. This is a year-long festival that promotes peace building through faith, and which includes the Youth Peace Award and the Commonwealth Peace Prize that I just mentioned. I'm proud that the Khalili Foundation has been an official partner since 2017 through Faith in a Commonwealth initiative, which we are delighted to have extended to beyond 2030. Interfaith Explorers. We have developed one of the world's leading primary school interfaith curriculum using cutting-edge AI technology, and we look forward to working with many of the countries and young people in this room to help roll these out across the Commonwealth. Peace at the Crease. We are also using sport to promote peace building in communities that are prone conflict by using cricket, which is the most commonly loved and played sport across the Commonwealth countries. This will be launched next year in 2025. We already have done one of these in London a few years ago. I want to take this opportunity to thank my dearest and cherished friend, Secretary General Baroness Patricia Scotland, whose vision for faith and youth resonates strongly with me, and that is why the Khalili Foundation started working with the Commonwealth. Thanks to the Secretary General, I look forward to my family foundation staying involved for many years to come. Many thanks and good luck for the rest of the sessions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that lovely spotlight piece. Next up is the Honourable Advisor to the Government of Bangladesh, and for Foreign Affairs, I call upon Honourable Tawheed Hossain, Advisor for Foreign Affairs, Government of Bangladesh.
Thank you. Distinguished delegates, young leaders, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you all. It's a great privilege for me to be here at the Commonwealth Youth Forum, addressing such a distinguished gathering of young leaders and change makers from across the world. I extend my warm greetings to all of you, representing the diverse and vibrant youth of our Commonwealth community. The theme of the forum, navigating our course and building resilience for a common future, could not be more pertinent as we collectively face an era of unprecedented challenges and opportunities. Distinguished delegates, Bangladesh recently witnessed a mass uprising spearheaded by students, joined by the common people in their quest for freedom, equality, and justice. In the struggle, we lost hundreds of young lives as they asked for a just society. They represent the hopes and aspirations of a brighter future for our nation. This year's theme, therefore, resonates so deeply with Bangladesh. The youth in Bangladesh have a voice, and they have made us hear it. In Bangladesh, the youth represent a dynamic and powerful force for progress and positive change. Their energy and creativity led the nation in a political change that forced the fall of a 16-year-long autocracy. The youth also played a role in forming the interim government led by the Nobel laureate, Dr. Muhammad Yunus. We hope that the vigor and determination of our youth will shape the country's future. The government of Bangladesh is committed to empowering its youth by investing in education, skills, and entrepreneurship, preparing them to take on leadership roles in building a more prosperous and sustainable nation. Distinguished delegates, in this era of constantly evolving global landscape, due to greater exposure to technology, the youth are often the first to feel the impact of changes. Climate change, economic disparities, conflicts, and public health emergencies are just a few of the pressing issues that transcend borders and affect us all. Yet, it is the youth who consistently demonstrate the resilience and do the innovation needed to turn these challenges into opportunities for positive changes. The Commonwealth Youth Forum provides an essential platform for young people to engage, voice their perspectives, and share solutions that align with our values of democracy, equality, and sustainability. Distinguished delegates, to build resilience, investing in youth is imperative. Access to quality education and digital technology, employment opportunities, and good work environment are essential for empowering the youth. Building a resilient future also means prioritizing peace, security, and social inclusion. The youth of the Commonwealth are key actors in preventing conflicts, promoting peace, and fostering understanding among communities. It is essential that their voices are integrated into decision-making process at all levels. In addition, the youth must have access to mental health support and right environment to freely express their ideas, creativity, and aspirations. It is our responsibility to eliminate the barriers that hold them back, such as discrimination, gender inequality, and social exclusion, so they can reach their full potential and contribute positively to their communities. As we navigate our course towards a common future, it is crucial that all stakeholders, including private sectors and civil society, collaborate with the youth of the Commonwealth. By investing in their potential and providing them with the opportunities and resources they need, we can build resilient societies where youth will not only thrive, but also shape the society. Let us ensure that the voices of our youth are not only heard, but also transformed into action. Together, we can build a world where every young person has the opportunity to grow, contribute, and lead the way towards a resilient, inclusive, and prosperous future. I thank you all.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. He's the advisor to the Foreign Affairs for the government of Bangladesh. We're so grateful to have the government join us and be here with us today. It is now my privilege to call forward Dr. Jonathan Gray, and he is from the Commonwealth Leadership Institute.
Thank you, Talofa. Would you put the first slide up, please? Distinguished young leaders and distinguished older leaders, thank you, and thank you first for allowing me to speak. I am so grateful to all of you and the people of Samoa for your warmth and generosity and the fantastic welcome. I'm speaking on behalf of myself And the slides seem to have moved around, but the first slide, if we can go back to it, shows the two young leaders that are supposed to be with me but have been caught up in their work. Kylie from Australia was representing the 20 Commonwealth countries that have been taking part in this work in meeting the King yesterday. And Mataroria, a brilliant young doctor in New Zealand, Aotearoa, is caught up in clinical duties. So you get me, another old person, but speaking on behalf of them. If I could go to the next slide, please. I wanted to show you where we are. I'm going to have a quick look at the slide. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thanks. Just wanted to remind you where we are. Samoa, fantastic place, and Wales, where I come from, is just over there on the left, a long way away. Now, I know in this audience I've got to be careful, but if anyone wants to say what comes to mind when you think of Wales, Tom Jones, Gareth Bale, no, next slide please. Welsh rugby, we're very proud, but we've been humbled a few times, haven't we? Next slide please. Next, there you are. 1999, 2011, 2012, ingrained in our memories. Thank you for humbling us and reminding us. I also wanted to give a shout out. I was a real fan yesterday because I was lucky enough to find a brilliant Samoan rugby player in this audience, Roger Warren. A big shout out to Roger in the audience. I was lucky enough to see him play for my home club in Cardiff many years ago. Not that many years ago, Roger. Okay, next slide, please. This is the serious stuff. The world is burning, and who runs towards the fire? Young people are the ones who run towards the fire. And that's why I'm here, as I've retired, and trying to do something to help. Next slide. I led the COVID response in Wales, and one of the big things we had to do, we needed 2,000 beds in 6 weeks. All of the people my age who'd been to fancy training, I'd been to Harvard, you had medical leadership, you had nursing leadership in silos. Actually, nobody turned up. The people who turned up were tens of thousands of young people. And the military who were stood on my shoulder kept reminding me, Jonathan, this is rubbish. You have not engaged your young people. You have not taught doctors how to talk to nurses, how to talk to social workers, local government, teachers, farmers. What are you going to do about it? So we scraped through. Next slide, please. We scraped through the COVID incident. Next slide, guys. Thank you. And we started bringing together young people. People said they would never come, that it would be too busy. We had 800 applicants for every one of our programs. We put them through escape rooms. We took them to military bases and we got them to learn to trust each other. Young nurses working with social workers, working with teachers. It worked. We have 120 of these young leaders in cohorts across my small country. And this gentleman noticed. So he invited us to his home in Scotland. And next slide. Then he invited us to go to Windsor Castle and invite brilliant young people from each Commonwealth country. The first call, we got 20 Commonwealth countries join us. They are outstanding. And you're going to meet them over the next few days because a few of them are flying in. But we want more. We want all of you. And the idea, and I just wanted to shout out, like on the first slide, to Sushil and Esther and Janet and Lane, people have put their support in to help us build a new Commonwealth Leadership Institute. It's not a building. It's not going to be a big infrastructure. It's a network of networks. We don't want to recreate anything that's there already. You can see our challenge. You can see our ask. Next slide. So our vision is a resilient, connected network of young leaders supported by older mentors across the system. Next slide. So we had our first meeting at Windsor Castle. There'll be a meeting every year at Windsor Castle, but more importantly, there'll be a global meeting, Commonwealth meeting next year in Singapore, as they've offered to be the first host for 56 young countries' young leaders as part of this. India are looking to support the following year, and we aim to make this a very local but wonderful event for everybody. Next slide. You can see the people who really run this. I'm a cheap imitation and just trying to represent them, but they're an amazing group of people who are driving this forward. Next slide. Special forces. Now, we don't all like military metaphors, but how would we work together when the next crisis and the next crisis comes along? Who will you call, and how will you bring people together? So it builds on all the great work you've already heard about, but this is about learning new experiences. Next slide, please. You can see we don't want to play classical music. We want to learn how to play jazz together. We want an institute that trains people, gives you immersive experiences, the best escape rooms, the best interaction with immersive experiences, whether it's on the plains of Salisbury Plain, or whether it's in the deserts of Australia, or whether it's on the islands here. How would we learn and trust each other at the end of a few days together? Next slide. Next slide. So it was launched, it had all the fanfare, and it's up and running now. I'm going round, I've been in Singapore, they're in, Australia's in, New Zealand next week, India the week after that, and we want to embrace everybody and every young leader, and beacons in every country. And each of those beacons will be a young leader group, because we know you're there. I'm a bit of a fan of being a New Zealander as well. This is a bit like those beacons that spread around the world when there's trouble. How will we call for each other's help? So a new age is coming. Hope is kindled, as Gandalf the Grey would say. Next slide. There's a structure to this, but the key thing I wanted to emphasize is, where's the register of fellowships that you could go on? Where's the register of 1-year fellowships or 3-week trips that you could do to learn from other people? We're going to fund some of those, we're going to get other resources to help you, and we're going to learn from every time you go somewhere. How can we have a living lab where we learn from your experiences, and how can we put a mentor network over the top? Next slide. So I just wanted to finish, last 2 slides. These are the people that matter. You'll meet them, you'll hear from them. This is theirs. Next slide. One more slide after that, and we're done. One more slide, please. So, this is my theory. As 56 friends, we can tackle together all the challenges that are definitely coming towards us if we know each other and if we trust each other. It builds on the work so far. Please find me at the end or over the next few days. Look forward to talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jonathan, and Commonwealth Leadership Institute for that lovely presentation and the work that you are doing across the Commonwealth. Gives me great pleasure to introduce our last feature for the this spotlight session before we move into the last plenary. Mr. Caleb Brathwaite, please let's give him a round of applause. Caleb is the president for the Barbados National Youth Council. Over to you.
Thank you, everyone. So I was only given 2 minutes, so I'm going to try to be able to say everything come here to say in 2 minutes. So we're going to start it off. How many of you back home have a National Youth Council? How many of you? I want to see some hands, some hands, some hands. Okay, how is this National Youth Council funded? Is it funded by government, or is it funded by private sector? Does it get any funding at all? Or do you do your own funding? Government? Okay. So private sector doesn't help in any way at all? No? Okay. How many of you has a National Youth Parliament? National Youth Parliament. And does your National Youth Parliament actively contribute to policy, legislation? Yes? Oh, care to share? You can on the mic.
So...
It's on?
Not on. It's not on. Just no. Thank you. For Kingdom of Tonga's National Youth Parliament, how it actually works is that we go through the process like how our MPs actually apply to become members of Parliament. And then from there, we look at issues specifically for youth. And then we have the outcome statement from the Tonga Youth Parliament, Tonga National Youth Parliament. And then from there, our leaders actually create policies regarding it. Just an update, we just launched the official consultation for Tonga Youth Justice Bill 2024. Yeah, that's one example.
And that's awesome. But many countries being represented here do not have that. There's not a structure in place for National Youth Parliament to actively contribute to policy and legislation. And being quite frankly, this forum, I know that was said in corners, should actually be a forum where that you come and make decisions. Young people can solve the greatest challenges we face, but oftentimes you're never given that opportunity. And being quite frankly, this forum represents that, and I have to be real. Why am I saying that? Even though that we are coming here and we are learning and we are going back home with various things to seek that we can implement, that this forum should be a stepping stone that we can implement policies that really affect us as young people. We as young people should be able to come here and make decisions, agree to certain things, even though that is going to be the declaration that is going to be sent to the Commonwealth heads of government. There are certain things that we can agree to actively commit. Memorandums and understandings with like Togo's National Youth Parliament, with other National Youth Parliament Association. Now, how many of you have a National Student Council actively representing student interests? How many of you? One. Not enough hands. So what I'm here to tell you about is the 3 pillars of youth development. Whereas you have an actively and functioning National Youth Council, you have an actively and functioning, excellent youth there in Tonga, an actively and functioning National Student Council. Because when you have these 3 pillars of youth development, you are able to cover the whole entire landscape of a young person. You have the young person in terms of school, looking at student representation. You have youth parliament looking at legislation and policy which will ultimately affect us as young people. And then you also have the National Youth Council looking after the interests of the thousands, maybe even millions of young people that reside in your country. The 3 pillars of youth development essentially will look to cover these, every single facet of a young person's journey and ensure that they can be representative and that what they're saying is heard and that we as young people have the opportunity to solve our challenges. All we need is resources. And then lastly, National Youth Councils needs to be legislated. There needs to be a legislative framework to guide our operations and guide the 3 R's, the roles, the responsibilities, and the resources allocated to the National Youth Council. And thank you.
Put your hands together again for Caleb Brathwaite from Barbados. Fantastic. All right, so we're winding down the session. Again, the idea behind the spotlight sessions is to show you persons who are already active in the spaces, those who are already doing work, and to show, or to give you an opportunity, or to give them the opportunity to show to you just the good work that they're doing, hopefully to inspire you so you can aspire to a similar scale and to do stuff of similar initiatives. As we wind down this segment, I'm honored to invite Maddie Hele. Maddie Hele, she is from the Commonwealth Youth Gender Equality Network, CYGEN. So, CYGEN, are you ready to come forward? Okay. Please make her feel welcome from the Gender Equality Network. Awesome.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Madeline, and if you can't tell from the accent, I am Australian. And I'm here representing the Commonwealth Youth Gender Equity Network, CYGEN. CYGEN is made up of over 230 members across 40 Commonwealth countries and across 5 different regions, and we're supported by the Royal Commonwealth Society through their role as the Network Secretariat. The network was formed in 2015 in Malta following the 2015 CHOGM. It came as a result of discussion about the gap between young people and equitable gender representation, and leading discussion and action in CYGEN is the gender agenda, which focuses on 5 key areas, these being gender and governance, child, early and forced marriage, sexual and reproductive health and rights, youth transitions, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, and sex characteristics. CYGEN's projects include the CYGEN Knowledge Hub, which is a digital platform for members to submit their reports, insights, and work within the youth and gender advocacy sector, and other members to stimulate collaboration and global engagement with other CYGEN members. CYGEN also enables its members to engage in various forms, including roundtable discussions with Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Edinburgh in a commemoration for International Women's Day, the Commonwealth Youth Ministerial Meeting, and contributions to the UN Commission for the Status of Women. Evidently, too, the network can also take you to things like CHOGM. CYGEN is committed to having representation from all Commonwealth countries, particularly young gender advocates from the Pacific and Caribbean regions. So if you are from those areas, please do not hesitate to contact CYGEN at royalcwsociety.org and inquire about becoming a member. So thanks.
Thank you, Sai-Chen, for your contribution to our spotlight. Next up is Royal RCS. I call upon William Bolton, who is the representative and will be speaking about Royal Commonwealth Society and their work, which is the campaign.
Hi everyone. I'm from the Royal Commonwealth Society as well as our environmental work. You just heard from Maddie about CYGEN. We're based in London. We also work on our environmental work, and I'm here to talk about an environmental campaign we're launching this week called the Commonwealth Clean Oceans Plastics Campaign. I'll keep it brief, but I'm sure a lot of you know about plastic pollution. According to the Commonwealth Blue Charter, 12.2 million tonnes of plastic are put into the ocean every year, and by 2050 there'll be more plastic in the ocean than fish. I'm sure all of this is new to you, but we're trying to launch a new environmental campaign that aims to take 1 million pieces of plastic out of the ocean by 2026. We're going to involve young people and athletes in every Commonwealth country through a combination of education and local action. It's going to have two halves. The education component will be materials, info, toolkits, webinars with young people and experts to help educate about the issue, behaviours you can change, and we'd love it if you could read and share. And then launching in March, there will be an action component. There will be a relay working with Commonwealth Sport and the Commonwealth Games Federation, which will be a relay going through every Commonwealth country, starting in March 2025 and going through to the Commonwealth Games 2026 in Glasgow. And we'd love you all to get involved. An opportunity to help out, contribute to that million-piece goal, also help clean up your local area and to get involved in a small way in the Commonwealth Games. If you want, please, again, message. I'll also post in the WhatsApp group. You can also go to our website, same as CYGEN, royalcwsociety.org. Come find me, I'll be about all week. But we're looking for people who want to get involved in pickups, but also to build a network. We know there's organizations already doing this. There's lots of people I've talked to who are brilliant and doing great work. So it's about giving them a platform and connecting them with each other. I've talked with Marina Keel, Samoa Recycling Waste Management Association here. She's great. So we want to connect young people who have ideas. If you've got a new idea for collecting plastic, if you've got a use for plastic after it's recycled, if you've got an alternative to plastic made of seaweed or an environmental thing, it's about sharing these ideas and building a network that we really want to get moving. So I think that's it, basically. The only other thing I'd like to say is that we're launching it this week. I'm going to be running a plastic pickup campaign. If any delegates want to get involved, Thursday, again, I'll be posting it in the group. There'll be a sign-up. Please come join me. It's a local beach. It should be just down the road. I'll be there. I hope to see you all there, too. Thank you.
All right, many thanks to the Royal Commonwealth Society for their event. I'm not sure if they have a graphic that we'd be happy to share and circulate in the correspondences that we have to share in the WhatsApp groups, etc. So please circulate and we'll be happy to assist you in that endeavor. So as we have come to the end of the spotlight sessions, we're now ready to proceed to our fifth and final plenary. Can anyone tell me what the plenary is about? What is the fifth and final plenary about? Does anybody know? Come, young people, what's the fifth and final plenary about? You have the program. What is the fifth and final program about? Mapping the way forward. Thank you. And as we look forward to look out for the fifth and final session, we're going to look about how we can secure the future of our young people. What does the future of young people look like? When we endeavor to prognosticate what the futures of young people will be across Africa, across Asia, across the Caribbean, what do we see? And we look at issues such as partnerships, education, mental health, and how we can create more resilient communities. And there is no one better to start this discussion than our very own Mr. Shane John. Shane is the president of the Trinidad and Tobago National Youth Council, and he will lead us through this critical conversation. Shane, take it away. Please make him feel welcome.
Thank you, Naji. Talofa. Talofa. Good afternoon, everyone. Everyone hearing me well? Everyone hearing me well? So on your screen now, we are going to project a Mentimeter. Anyone knows what Mentimeter is? So you're going to scan the barcode, and I want to hear from you what is needed to build a resilient future. So scan the barcode and let's start the conversation, because it's time for us to be part of the conversation. So go back to the first slide. Funds. So get your words in. Collaboration. Support. I think I'm seeing safety. Partnerships. Opportunity. Unity. Democracy. Equal access. Leadership. Trust. Skills. And as you add your words, you will realize that collaboration and funding are the main topics that we are looking at. So before we go into the panels, I want to hear from you, the young people. There has been a call by some of us that we have not been able to speak. So I want to, what hand, the mic is on the table, or I can come to you and share with us, what do you think is needed for resilient futures?
Thank you very much, Chair. I think it's as basic as we need brave young people to build a resilient future. We constantly speak about the absence of young people in leadership spaces. So to answer your question, I believe that we need brave young people who will be able to stand up to abuse of power that we are currently seeing in many of our states. But over and above that, I think we need to support each other. We need to lobby for one another so that we find expression in these spaces. We need to move beyond just focusing on the fact that we need to build intergenerational leadership. I am from South Africa.
So he spoke about inclusion, ensuring that all of us feel welcome. Any other hands?
Thank you very much. My name is Shakwani Hunt and I'm from Barbados. I think that we definitely need to invite young people into the room where the ideas are created and passed. We also need to put money behind the projects. A lot of the time we're asked to go to consultations. After consultations, we're asked to come to forums. We pitch ideas, we submit proposals, and then no action, no money, no faith in the project we have submitted, even though it is actionable and creditable, you don't put any support behind us. So if you really want to make change, you need to include more access to funds to get the projects off the ground. And I don't mean the beginning money, I mean the actual money.
So we heard from Africa and we heard from the Caribbean. We are in the Pacific. So anyone, the mics are on your table. What do we need for a resilient future? I see a mic on.
Testing. Okay, it's working. I think what has already been alluded by the former speakers is really relevant. But I think we are in the room with our youth. And I think that's really evidence that we can be that change and make it in our own countries where we come from. So while we talk about all of these building a resilient future, I think the key thing is we can create it within ourselves, back in our spaces, back at home, or we can encourage the younger generations and the youth to become the voice of that change.
And where are you from?
I'm sorry, I'm from Samoa.
Thank you very much. Give her a round of applause. What about mental health? Young people, we are facing many challenges. Mental health. What about advocacy for equality, human rights? So I want to hear from you. Anyone from Europe would like to share? Sure. Press it one more time.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Burke. I'm from the Cayman Islands, which is a British overseas territory. Mental health crisis is very real. We all know and speak about it. But I think when we start to look at things from an interdisciplinary approach, and not mental health in isolation, we can get to the root of the problem. So, for example, the loss of our environments and our locations and our homes are affecting who we are as a people, the way of our life, which in turn reflects our mental health state. So coming from the Cayman Islands, you can see this very impactful, or in essence, you can see it played out during hurricanes. So using mental health as not just in isolation, but in an interdisciplinary approach across the board will help us to tackle it better than looking at it just on its own.
Thank you very much. And we have one last comment.
Well, my comment is on building the resilient future. I'm Shadrach Mwansa from Zambia. One of the things that I would like to share is how we need to tally education and skills with the available resources. For instance, in Zambia, I would like to make mention that our government has been able to push what we call CDF, Constituent Development Funds, from 80,000 to about $1 million, which is like a huge gap. These are resources that are going to the people who are going to decide on what they want to do. So we are calling on all member states of the Commonwealth to ensure that there are more resources that are made available for the activities that are being done by ourselves on the local communities where we live. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Give him a round of applause. I know most of you have had an opportunity to eat lunch and you may be a bit tired. However, it's time to hear from you young people. And in this panel, we are going to split it in two, part A, part B. One session now focused on health, well-being, and social resilience. And there is a Mentimeter up, and I want you to scan the QR code and put in your suggestion as to what should be the pathway forward, what next, and what do you think should be priority? Again, what should be the path forward and what you think should be next? And while you do that, allow me to introduce our first 4 panelists. And of course, young people, I want you to make them feel very welcome. Our first panelist is the Honorable Steve Lettiger. She is the Deputy Minister of Women, Youth, Persons with Disabilities from South Africa. And let's make her feel welcome. The Honorable Steve Lettiger. We can do much better than that, young people. Let's give her... Our next panelist, Dr. Kim Ava Dickerson. She is the head and representative of Samoa, American Samoa, for the World Health Organization. Let's welcome her, Dr. Kim. Our third panelist is Mr. Jonathan Veach, UNICEF Pacific representative. Let's make him feel welcome. And last but certainly not least, let's welcome Professor Dame Carol Black, Commonwealth Secretary General, Special Envoy for Aged Well. Let's make her feel welcome. So on your screens, I saw that young people believe that the first priority is ensuring that we have established partnerships. And that is testament to our 4 members of this panel here this afternoon. But before we do that, I need to do a vibe check. In the Caribbean, we say vibe check. Hey, hey. Hey, hey. We have much more persons than that in the room. Hey, hey. Hey, hey. Very good. So let's jump right into it. And I want to start with you, Professor. And of course, we're going to discuss pertinent topics, mental health. So, Professor, what have you been doing to tackle mental health? And what do you suggest all these young people do to raise awareness on mental health within their various communities?
It's a great pleasure to be here. So, young people's mental health. I've been engaged with this topic in several ways. One, through looking after students at the University of Cambridge, where I was head of house, one of the Cambridge colleges, and then work for the UK government, in which I've been really interested in helping understand why young people, particularly 18 to 24-year-olds, have had continuing worsening mental health, which has affected their ability to be in the workplace. So just to start off thinking about students, when I first went to Cambridge to be head of house, yes, we did have young people who reported that they had poor mental health on coming to the university or during their studies. But when I was in Cambridge 2 weeks ago, my old college told me that this time when they had the new intake of students, 50% of them recorded themselves as having a mental health problem. Now, that is a huge number. It's a big change in what has happened. And you have to ask yourself, why? And what should we be doing about it? If you look then at people, young people who may be going into the workplace, either straight from school, through an apprenticeship, or after university, it doesn't matter where you look. Again, we have seen this increase in mental health issues, and many more people not even able to go into the workplace, but going directly into our welfare system. So we have no doubt that we can record that problem. And then if you say, well, what is the cause of it? I think if we're frank, we don't know. Is it that we're more comfortable reporting mental health issues? We used to not to talk about mental health. It's very good that we do talk about it.
Yes.
Is it social media, etc.?
Yes.
And then what should we do about it? And I would say, I'm sure we'll discuss this, there's much to do in the educational system and much for civil society, etc. to do. But I know that it's happening. There must be many reasons. And we really have to think, how do we intervene as early as possible to help young people have a much more fulfilled life?
Thank you very much, Professor. And I want to jump to you now, Mr. Jonathan. You know, Professor spoke about what should we be doing and what should we do next. I know UNICEF has been doing a lot of work. So, Mr. Jonathan, can you share with us what can young people do to tackle mental health, as well as share with us what UNICEF has been doing to address mental health?
Thank you, Shane. And first of all, I want to recognize all the young people in the room, but also all the youth ministers who stayed throughout. So thank you very much for being part of this, and the Commonwealth Secretariat for organizing this great event over the last couple of days. As has been discussed already, mental ill health is the leading cause of disability in young people. And yet, government expenditure on mental health is extremely low. It represents only 2% of the health budget, which already is less than 10% in most countries. So it's minuscule, and it's not addressing the problem. When we ask young people in the Pacific what their greatest emotional and behavioral challenge is, some of them paint a very bleak picture. They speak of unsupportive family structures and teachers, excessive pressure to succeed in school, financial hardships, the threat of violence and bullying, including cyberbullying, and a lack of mental health services and mental health stigma. There are also very entrenched gender norms in the Pacific. In Fiji, for example, we talked to young boys who told us they must battle their own mental illness and never cry as part of their cultural and community expectations and beliefs. Recently, WHO and UNICEF published Mental Health of Children and Young People, a service guidance to support the transformation of mental health services for children and adolescents. It includes a lot of good practice and community-level engagement, including roles of teachers, social workers, and parents in supporting those who exhibit signs of depression, anxiety, or behavioral disorders. The Global Coalition of Youth Mental Health is just one example where investing in scaling up mental health prevention, promotion, and treatment can be prioritized by governments and public and private sector partners. Just a couple of pieces of advice for all countries here. If we can follow these 4 steps, we're all moving in the right direction. First of all, we need to improve legal and regulatory frameworks and increase public and private investment. This agenda is not the responsibility of the Ministry of Health alone and requires multi-sectoral engagement through a qualified workforce and a partnership with civil society, communities, and of course young people themselves. Second, we must scale up evidence-based interventions, including the promotion of a safe and inclusive environment and mental health literacy in schools, the strengthening of parenting programs so that parents and caregivers are able to better support their children. Third, we must increase intervention and investment in early intervention and prevention programs. We all have a role to play in breaking the silence surrounding mental illness, addressing stigma, and promoting a better understanding of mental health among the young. And there are lots of tools and ways of doing this that are out there. Finally, we need to ensure direct and meaningful participation of young people in all our work to improve mental health and ensure a rights-based approach is enshrined in policies and plans, including legal provisions to promote deinstitutionalization, access to quality services at community level, laws that address stigma and discrimination, and provide concrete measures to eliminate coercion in mental health services.
Thank you very much, Mr. Veitch. Give him a round of applause. And he spoke directly to 4 pillars: partnerships, direct action, early intervention, and evidence-based promotion. And of course, he focused on gender inclusivity. And I think it orders well to bring in you, Honorable Minister. And in the back, we were discussing it. I shared with Minister that I was blown away by the work that she has been doing and advocate. And for us as young people, we are sometimes considered advocates. So to tie the conversation in from Mr. Jonathan, Minister, tell us, how can youth drive action to build inclusive communities? And more so, what are the tools that you have used to advocate within your space and within your country back home in South Africa?
Thank you so much, moderator. Good afternoon, everyone. I don't think we are awake. Good afternoon, everyone. Excellent. No, I want to really appreciate this session, but also to commend the government of Samoa for hosting us. The hospitality of Samoan people, it's excellent. And now that we're focusing on well-being of young people, it's quite important that the youth of today defines its own generational mission. It's quite important to understand your own costs, your own priorities, because you have the solutions to those problems. You know, for the longest time myself, I've been an advocate, a human rights advocate in the social justice movement, but also as a young person. It's quite important that we focus on how we build our own resilience by education. And I think on what Prof has said, the important thing is evidence-based, because that helps us to design interventions that are needed. If at all it's about challenging a policy, you have to understand that policy. You have to understand its history, but also where we want to be taking it. And I think in many of our countries, you know, you've got more than a third of the population that really dominates, or it's dominated by young people. And young people are smart people. They have to be at the table. They have to have equal opportunities. Young people have to be empowered, supported, invested on, but also be given the opportunity to really implement, plan, as well as monitor the intervention. So we spent that along the years investing on that. I think here, back home also in South Africa, we deal with triple threat challenges of inequality, poverty, and unemployment. And more, you know, we have, of course, established the National Youth Development Agency that prioritizes the investment. In fact, 80% of our budget goes to the work of the National Youth Development Agency. That's 80% of our department responsible for women, youth, and persons with disability. And it was quite important because we are trying to reduce the poverty damage that we have, unemployment rate, by really investing resources towards youth development and towards entrepreneurship. So it's quite important that you look at different aspects of work in the socio-economic realities of people, but where we live in, and implement those opportunities for young people. And I think one thing that we cannot take away is that young people must not be under pressure to try solve everything immediately. I think we must take issues by issues, have solutions, resolve them, and move to the next issue, because that resilience is important, but also solutions that brings much more actions that are needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Hey, hey. Hey, hey. And of course, Minister focused on the importance of youth advocacy, and she touched on her journey in ensuring that young persons are a part of the conversation, and more so, she touched on gender rights as well as youth inclusivity. And I think what is so transformational is that 80% of the South African budget of the department that she leads and is the deputy minister in goes towards young people, and I believe that deserves a round of applause. And of course, Dr. Kim, Mr. Jonathan spoke about the partnerships between your organization and his. And I want to bring the conversation back to mental health. And what are some of the strategies you think young people can really do to ensure that we tackle as well as invest in mental health education? And of course, share with us some of the good work that you have been doing within your organization.
Right, thank you. So I'm from the World Health Organization, and we deal with health. In the World Health Organization, we talk about health as a state of complete physical, mental, social well-being, and not just the absence of disease. So I'm just going to give you some practical strategies that you can use to deal with your mental health. Very simple strategies. It's not a pill, but these will help you. So there's some physical things such as getting enough sleep, exercising regularly, eating well, managing your stress, keeping your alcohol use in check, and tobacco use, please. With WHO, we believe that tobacco is not good for your health. And in fact, nowadays we are even saying no level of alcohol is good for your health. But I suppose a little bit for your heart is okay. And then another important thing is, please practice safer sex. If you can do these practical things, it's not just your physical health that will be affected, but it also helps your mental health. And there are also certain habits that you need to form, because if you form these habits in childhood or adolescence, it helps you as you become a youth. Getting connected, really important, and not just by social media, but building strong, healthy relationships between loved ones and friends. So getting connected is not getting on the phone, but it's building real and proper relationships. For young people, I think it's important to say, learn from the past and learn from your elders. Learn from your elders, not just what we say, but from the mistakes that we have made can help you. Very important, take care of yourself. You have to take care of your physical self, your emotional self, and your mental self. I know we have a lot of issues of violence against women, for example. Do not allow somebody to emotionally blackmail you. Be it emotional through the media, be it cyberbullying. Believing in yourself, believing that you are a person, believing that you have the agency to do, helps your mental health. You need to develop coping and problem-solving strategies. So these are just some practical things that if you can do. As WHO, I'll just round off here, we have a couple of things. So we've worked with UNICEF, as my colleague mentioned. We actually have a module that is HAT. HAT stands for Helping Adolescents Thrive. not just helping adolescents survive, but helping them to thrive. We also have various mental health modules, and we've also worked with UNAIDS on building standards for quality health services, because we found that a lot of young people, they go to the health service right from the gate. It's not even the nurse or the doctor who sends them away. It is the security guard who may send them away, particularly if they are coming for sexual and reproductive health services. So we developed modules and standards for our health services and our health providers that they need to deal with, and they need to respect adolescents' survival. There are many other things we are doing, but these are just a few. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kim. And as young people, I think sometimes we take for granted the things that we do. So we may indulge in too much alcohol, and we may take risk in some of the activities that we participate in because we are young. So thank you very much, Dr. Kim, for sharing pertinent information for us. And I want to share with all of you my new family in Commonwealth. In Trinidad and Tobago, we have a saying, "Do hot your head." Or in Jamaica, I think they say, "Do hot up your head." And it's "do hot your head." Hot as in heat. And it simply means don't worry, because we are talking about mental health and how we manage our environments and how we take on life's challenges, and that is very important. But I want to shift to you, the young people, and I'm looking at the room and all of you all are looking so energetic, but I want to hear from all of you, and of course to engage with you a bit. Minister spoke about what are young people's priority. So I would like to hear from some persons within the room. What do you think should be young people's priority coming out of this Commonwealth Youth Forum? Of course, don't be afraid. Raise your hand and share with us what should be young people's priority coming out of the Commonwealth Youth Forum. And now this is the opportunity that you have been asking for to engage with your world leaders. So I ask you, of course I'm seeing a hand.
Wait, my mic? Oh yes, the mic is gone. Hello, good afternoon again, everyone. This is Shakwani Hunt from Barbados. I think one of the things that we need to take from this forum is, instead of trying to survive, we should get our young people creating a plan on how to strive in the industries that they're currently in. Because a lot of the plans are just survival, living day to day, getting minimum wage, but more setting up a system where they can plan for the future, plan for future trips, plan for future families. We can't do any of that based on a survival plan. And I think that is one of the main things we need to bring from this forum.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? I see a hand.
Mine segues into a bit of a question for the panelists.
Thank you.
I think it's really important that we take away the idea that, obviously, we've been talking a little bit about mental health, and we take away kind of ideas and inspirations for how to lower the mental health issues in our nations. And that leads me to my question. So Australia is currently looking at a ban on social media for children under a certain
Could you
age.
speak in the mic, please?
In the mic, sorry. Australia is currently looking to ban social media for children under a certain age. And I just wanted to get the panelists' opinions, and what are your thoughts on this, and possibly do you believe the role of social media has... Sorry. And what do you believe the role of social media is in mental health?
Thank you very much for your two questions. So the first question was, Australia is seeking to ban social media for certain young people under a particular age. What is the thoughts of members of the panel? And the second question is the role of social media in mental health. So I saw one hand, and then we're going to get the panel respond to your question. So.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nai. I'm from Samoa. I'm going to take this opportunity to say everything that I have to say. I'll try and keep it short, but two things, what I want out of the forum, and then I've got a question for the panel as well. So, while these discussions on key issues are important, I'm very interested in knowing how you, the Commonwealth, and the panelists and the presenters from the past couple of days plan to reach the actual audience most affected by these issues that we've talked about in the past couple of days. Now looking at the mothers who support their families through subsistence means and the school leavers, people who are not in the house today, people who are not here listening about the issues and the solutions. There's been dialogue around mental health, amplifying youth voices and climate change initiatives, but I really challenge you to consider how the Commonwealth Youth Forum can deliver tangible results that reach the people who actually need attention and assistance the most, especially those who are not present today, because I can acknowledge my privilege in being here today, and I feel that we all are privileged to be here today, but the people who actually need help the most are not currently in the room. And so the success of the Commonwealth Youth Forum, for me, should be measured by effective implementation and the ripple effects on local economies, development in various sectors, and long-term sustainabilities for people who actually need help. That's it. And then last question for the panel, please, on mental health. In the Pacific context, mental health is often stigmatized, and traditional views on health and well-being in the Pacific Islands are closely tied to cultural and spiritual practices. And there's also often limited access to mental health professionals in Samoa specifically. I won't speak for the Pacific overall, but for Samoa there is limited access to mental health professionals, and mental health education is not widely embedded in the school curriculum. So my question for the panel is, how has the Commonwealth contributed to addressing this issue, and what further actions can the Commonwealth take to provide support ensuring culturally sensitive approaches to mental health? That's it. Faafetai Lava.
Thank you very much, my sister from Samoa. Before I ask the panel to address the three questions, immediately to respond to your first question, and we are strapped for time, so we will be addressing the three questions because we do have another panel. But your role here as youth leaders is to take the information that you have gathered for your countries and go back within your youth organizations and within your communities. Use the networks that you have built to really impact change, because there are a lot of NGOs and organizations here that are willing to work with youth organizations, including the Commonwealth Youth Council and by extension, the Commonwealth Secretariat. So I'll go to the first question, and I want to go to you, Minister, as it pertains to the issue of social media and the role that social media plays in mental health, and what is your view on social media being banned for students and children of a certain age?
Well, I think the most important purpose of developmental or development of the young person of a child. And I think it's quite important. Of course, the use of social media can be positive, but also the use of social media can be negative. And it's really about the content that is shared through this platform. Who's controlling the content? And if you don't regulate, if you don't look at the content that is shared, then you have an open book policy. But yet, if at all you take the example of what is happening in many of our countries, in the education system, there's an establishment of the comprehensive sexuality education. That development of the curriculum is age appropriate. So as children goes to a particular age, new content is developed. But when you look at the use of social media, there's no regulation around it. So of course, there is positive element around how you want to regulate or ban, or how you have to, look at content that is regulated. I mean, many countries have introduced that. Many countries have banned other social media platforms. But I think countries have to discuss, consult, engage around the use of social media. Like I said, there is, of course, negative aspect of it, but also there's positive to it. Because the positive aspect of it is looking at digital inclusion. It's looking at access to information. It's looking at connecting to people that may not be here with us. So you can imagine, if this room has about 300 people in it, and if we have had a hybrid youth forum, can you imagine how many people would have joined this conference? So the same way the young person from Samoa who's saying that many people who are not here, who don't have the privilege of being here. So I will not actually even dismiss the idea that people who are not, or who are here are not necessarily supposed to. People who are here for a reason. And that reason must be respected and acknowledged. But it's what we do as the power that we possess, the information that we have. We can share it through social media. The videos, the pictures, and so forth. That means that people know that young people came together in Samoa. For the first time, many who are coming into this corner of Pacific Island, many who have not been here, came to Samoa to connect with other young people, with ministers of youth, about how do we better the states of Commonwealth. So we have that opportunity, and digital inclusion and technology advancement helps us.
Thank you very much, Minister. So we are pressed for time, but I want to get from Doctor as well as Jonathan quickly, what have your organizations been doing to engage young people through the Commonwealth, addressing the question specifically what the Commonwealth is doing to reach those young people who are marginalized?
Yeah, so thank you. I mean, I think your answer on reaching the marginalized was really good. I mean, you came here for a reason, right? And I totally agree with Honorable Minister about social media as good and bad. Now, on the specific, what are we doing? And I'll address to the lady from Samoa, because we are, as WHO, we are working with governments first to develop mental health policies. So we've started the process in Samoa, Cook Islands, and a number of the other Pacific states. But it's not only in the Pacific, it's a global movement. In addition, as WHO, we have what we call the package of essential non-communicable diseases interventions. So this is a package of interventions that we implement at community level. What we've done in Samoa and also in several other countries, we don't only focus on NCDs. Now we always say NCDs and mental health. So we are adding mental health to the interventions we are implementing. And then just last, certainly not the least, is we actually have an NCD and mental health side forum tomorrow. So we are raising awareness through such fora. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Jonathan.
Yeah, I think as Kim said, I think we need to get back to basics.
Yes.
And one of the problems in the Pacific in particular is that governments spend a huge proportion of their health budget on the disease itself, on the response to NCDs. The UN in its work and also our partners, SPC and others, we take an equity-based approach. So we do try in our work always look at the last child first, the most remote, the most marginalized, and that's absolutely essential in all of our work.
Thank you very much. And Professor, to wrap up this segment, mental health, very quickly, what do you think needs to be done?
think most things have been said, but I do think for the marginalised and the underprivileged, you've really got to think about social care. You've got to think about youth hubs, because enabling young people to be in safe places where you can deliver a whole lot of things, not just their mental health. So thinking about youth hubs, I think in many countries you will find that those children who have grown up in poverty and underprivileged with poor educational opportunities have the worst mental health. So I think it's the responsibilities of government, if you like, to give these people a second chance. They often have missed out for various reasons on their first educational opportunity. And if you don't want to lose them forever with their poor mental health, their poor educational background, then I think you've got to think very innovatively about how do you rescue them, give them a chance in life.
Thank you very much. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause to our 4 members of the panel. I would now like to invite our next panel. So thank you very much, Minister. Thank you, Dr. Kim. Thank you very much, Mr. Jonathan and Professor Black. At this time, we will turn now to our second discussion, which focuses directly on young people, youth leadership, education, and economic empowerment. Now, very quickly, you are seeing the slide, and it's asking, what can be done differently to support youth? And allow me to invite our next 3 panelists. Mike McCabe, Regional Director
of existing institution, but they were targeted with the objective of bringing people who were almost marginalised, who could not get into the job market, teaching them some skills and then encouraging them to either volunteer or get a job within the games itself. And that worked really well because it gave a catalyst then to get your next job after the games. But I think you can take it broader in a way when, if I look at, from your country, Trinidad and Tobago hosted the Commonwealth Youth Games last year, and that Games was designed and run by the youth of the country. So they ran the organising committee, they came up with a really new, innovative approach. And I would say the critical thing there was they were not only encouraged, but they were empowered. And that makes a real difference to what you see out there in the world, where you can challenge. And that would be my advice, is to challenge the existing order. And a lot of traditional, if you like, areas I work in, sport, if it's very traditional, they're not moving forward. So listen to the youth and then start to move forward.
Thank you very much. Listen to the youth. And running straight to you, Chris. Mike, I want to ask you, the young people have identified the biggest barrier for youth leadership is limited access to opportunity. Tell us, what do you think about our collective action versus youth activity, and how can young people be more engaged so that they don't feel that sense of having limited action to opportunities?
Thank you, Shane. It's a great question. But before I do that, could I have everyone tell me, when was the last time you stood in front of a firing squad? Think about us right now with all of you. You've been seated for almost 2 hours. I'm going to do something really quick to take 30 seconds of my answer to get your energy back up. Please stand up. Close your eyes. Open your eyes. Turn around once. All right, you could have a seat. I'm going to stay standing because I've been seated all day, but you have not been standing in a while, so I just want to get your blood going. I'm going to stay standing. At least I get to go home to my 3 20-year-old children today, and when they say, "What did you talk about?" I could say, "I don't know," but at least I lifted them up, opened their eyes, and turned them around. I want to say to your question, talent is equally distributed all across the Commonwealth, rural communities, urban communities, all across the world, but opportunity is not. You who are in the room, as someone said before, you are privileged. And with great privilege and opportunity comes great responsibility to take your networking, what comes out of these small sessions, the nuggets that you might draw from this home. But with great opportunity comes great responsibility. And so to get that talent shared, yesterday, some of you might have seen the Blue Pacific Youth Initiative Youth. That was their first time any of them had come to a conference. I know a lot of you have been to a lot of these conferences, and you know day 2 in the afternoon is a horrible time to be on a panel. But people, each of you have found your way to stand up, to find a way to share that talent or to find that opportunity. That's our goal. For 2 years, side by side in communities, learning to make their meals, to dance their dances, learn languages, and work side by side on local development. We're in 30 of the Commonwealth countries. We'd love to work with any of your organizations to have our volunteers work side by side with you. But what's really important about that is how we learn to speak the other languages of our partnership. So if you want to work with a foundation like the Bellini Foundation, or you want to work to partner with USAID or UK government or anyone else, what have you done as a youth leader and your organization to learn the priorities of them? And what have you helped them understand the language of young people? I will tell you, I've been around so many youth conferences, and we waste so much time talking about we need a seat at the table. We're not the generation of leaders for tomorrow, we're of today. Take all of that, save that breath, put in, my name is X, I'm from Tonga, and I was just doing work on community diagnostics to help communities that were impacted by tsunamis 2 years ago to replant the type of crops we need. I'm working on coral restoration. You want to create a partnership with USAID? You want to create a partnership with the Bellini Foundation? You want to create a partnership with anyone? Tell your story, make it relevant, learn each other's language. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tell your story, make it relevant. And very quickly, to you, Ms. Romano Sina, I want to ask you, from based on your background,